Welcome back to another Read and Correct. With me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter of a story and correct it as I go along. If you want to listen to them live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. If you want to read the book, it's available on all major retailer. And if you want to support me, that's on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 24 of A Familiar Death. Trembor winced as he got out of the car, the muscles on his back bunching up and protesting the motion. I'm buying a portable mattress. He stretched and groaned, and his body complained some more, just in case something like this ever happens again. They'd made their bed for the night out of the 3 foam mattresses on the examination bed, placing them on the floor of the operating room. It wasn't quite as large as the waiting area, but once the operating table and monitoring machine had been moved to the side, there had been enough space, and more importantly, it was behind a locked door. The sex has been enjoyable, except for the mattress not staying in their place. It's not staying in place. And them ending up on the floor. The same happened as he tried to sleep, waking up multiple times as he fell between mattresses. At some point, he didn't bother rearranging them and slept on the floor, and now he was paying for it. His wolf nodded. He didn't look any better this morning. I'd say we should stop by the store when we get back to town, but that won't get us anything. The buffalo watched them, leaning against her all-terrain car. It was larger, higher, and sturdier than Marlot's city car, but not quite as large as Urion's truck. It was the kind of vehicle anyone who had to drive around the towns and communes as part of their day needed to have. They don't carry those kind of beds? They don't carry those kind of beds? They do, but they won't sell one to us. Arena snorted. This is ridiculous. Just what kind of people are these? Marlot tilted an ear. The same kind as in all other towns around here. She shook her head. They might hate you for they might hate you there for loving another male, but not one of them will put that above taking your money. Really? And how do you know? You've seen many males who love other males doing business with them? I don't care what they say they do. If I tried doing business with any of them, they'd kick me out of their stores. This town isn't the outlier. It's right in the middle of the pack. Um, she opened the mouth, then closed it with a frown. Okay. Maybe things have changed in the years I've been away. I'd love for that to be true, and this town to be the last remnant of a dying mindset, but I can't see it. All these places have insulated themselves against the rest of the world, still doing things the same way they did centuries ago. They won't change unless someone forces them to, and when they hold pretty much every vegetable the city needs to survive hostage, none of them will want to step in outside. That's how Arleon got the city leader to have a talk with me. Arna looked around her at the commune housing, but Trembor had the impression she was looking back at the other towns. You're right, she said. I never saw any indication there were any males who loved males. You wouldn't, Marlot said. They'd be discreet if they haven't left the town like I did. And it isn't like the rest of us go out announcing we love males too, Trembor continued. Even in Orvington, where I know no one cares about that. We just live our lives, and you couldn't tell if 2 males with their arms over each other's shoulder are lovers or just good friends. Marlot's ears perked, and he raised a hand to stop Arana from responding. Sorry, I'm going to derail this for a moment, but I need to confirm something. He looked to Trembor. Did you just say males, plural? Didn't you read our mating contract before signing it? There was an exclusivity clause. Trembor smirked. No, there wasn't. It was an off-the-pile contract. Those don't come with exclusivity included, and you didn't add one. How do you know this wasn't one male specific for Farmingtown where everyone is exclusive? The header was from the contract registry. They don't make the special case contract. He placed both hands on his wolf's shoulder, trying to ignore Arana's annoyed expression and not burst out laughing. And you know you're the only male for me. Mallet pursed his lips. I don't know. You said males just now. I was generalizing. Would I have been exclusive to you these last 3 years if I wasn't going to be now? His wolf studied his face, and Trevor could see his lips tremble as he fought the laughter. Just to be safe, when I get back to the clinic, I'm going to add the clause in. Trevor widened his eyes in mock dismay. Are you looking to have my dad invalidated? You can't make a change. You can't make changes after it's been signed. How will he know? We're both initialized it. He narrowed his eyes. You will initial it, right? His lion chuckled. Marl, he was a lawyer. The first thing he'll do is pull it off the registry. The changes aren't going to be there. Oh, right. I hadn't thought about that. Mallow thought for a moment. I wouldn't want to force him to work like that now that he's retired. When we get back, I'll tear it apart so we can start from scratch. You did say your family would want a large party. Trevor couldn't hold it back anymore and laughed. It doesn't work that way, and you know it. There's still a copy in at the registry. Mallow snorted and took out his pad. That's easily fixed. Trevor grabbed his hand. Don't you dare, he said, all mirth gone from his voice. All right, that's enough. Arena growled. Trevor got the sense she was looking from one to the other, but her eyes were locked on his wolf. But his eyes were locked on his wolf. He couldn't believe he'd said that, even as a joke. Mallow's my cursor doesn't match. Mallow's eyes showed worry and a hint of guilt. She huffed. Is it always like this with the two of you? Confident Marlot wouldn't carry through with his joke threat, Trembor let go of him and smiled at Arana. I wouldn't know. I've only been mated to him for a full day now. Until not long ago, I couldn't even get him to hold my hands in public. Oh, that hurts. Marlot grinned, hand over heart, then sobered and looked around. Now, you know what made me that way. Trevor nodded. Arana gagged. I didn't come here to watch some sappy romance vid, or worse, one of those equalist propaganda clipped. If I leave you two alone, I don't want to come back to find that one is eating the other. Trevor shook his head. Don't worry, Mallet said. We're not to that point yet, and I only eat him when we're in private. Trevor coughed, and Arana stared at his wolf. He couldn't believe Mallet said something like that to someone he barely knew. The buffalo rubbed a base of a horn. Just behave. I don't want to have to deal with that enforcer again this soon. She walked to Lamina's house to speak with the sheep alone. Trimmer continued licking his wolf until he heard the door close. Where did that come from? You've never been this blatant about our sex life before. I have no idea. Mallet grinned. The words just slipped out before I even realized it. I think giving this giant fuck you to the town has removed some of the censorship I've been imposing on myself all these years. Turber indicated the pad Marlot was still holding. Please don't talk about destroying a contract again, even as a joke. Sorry, I got carried away in the moment and I wasn't thinking. Turber smiled. Joking about our relationship is kind of new. I was always terrified that someone would show up and take away what we had, that I couldn't even think about joking. You saw how I reacted that time Elahan worked out. I'd spend the night at your place. I don't know if you ever realized how badly I wanted to lean against you each time we were close or take your hand. I did. Trevor took his wolf's hand. Malot looked at them. I was certain that if anyone ever noticed how I felt for you, they'd come down on us and we'd be killed. I did notice that even once you said you loved me, you weren't overly demonstrative. Mallow looked at him, ears canted back. You really think that years of fears and implied oppression are going to go away just because I realized it was okay for others to know I loved you? It didn't. But now we're mated, and I shoved it down that council's throat. We faced the townspeople and scared them off, so what's left to worry about? If they try anything, I'll just rip them apart. His wolf took a breath, and worry filled back into his eyes. Or I'm just riding the high of finally shaking this town of my fur. In a few days, I'll be scared again. Trevor wrapped his arm around his wolf. If that's the case, then we'll go from there. We're going to build a life together until you aren't afraid anymore. Marlot hugged him back. Thanks, Thurm. It's bad, Buzz. It's Arana. She wants us inside. As they reached the house, 3 cars raced down the road, close enough to the sidewalk to scare the sheeps walking there. Young predators howled in pleasure as they continued down the street. What was that about? Trembor asked. Marlot rolled his eyes. Younglings being idiots. One of them probably got some good news. Now they're spreading it by terrorizing the farmers. And yes, I was that much of an idiot too back then. The door to the house wasn't locked when Marlot tried it. Inside, they found Arana pacing before Lamia, whose face was a mask of determination. She won't tell me, the buffalo stated. The buffalo huffed. I won't ruin him, the sheep stated. You do know the coyote who attacked you yesterday was sent by him, right? Trevor asked. Lamia nodded nervously. It's okay. It won't matter anymore. How can you say that? Marlot asked. There's nothing you can say that will convince him your baby isn't a threat to him. That won't be a problem, Lamia stated. Arana stopped moving and looked at her. What do you mean? You know what predators here think of you, of all the farmers. You aren't people to them. You're tools to get the vegetables out of the ground. When you're meat, then you're meat to feed them. Lamia didn't answer. Trembor couldn't work out what she meant either. This Marlot rubbed the top of his muzzle, and when his wolf saw him looking, he set his jaw. You won't be able to find anyone willing to abort it, Marlot said, making Trembor gasp. You're too far along. It's a crime for someone to kill the baby you're carrying. What did she say? Trembor asked in his shock. He barely noticed Lamia speaking. Arana frowned. She said that no one needs to be involved. Trembor looked from her to Marlot. What does that mean? I don't know. Marlot answers. Pregnant females aren't my department. I remember some males from the academy talking about herbs. To give a female they'd gotten pregnant, but I wasn't paying attention. By then, I was done with females altogether. Lamia looked away. Trembor knelt before her. You can't do that, he said gently. You aren't wired to end a life. Just wait. The baby will end itself. I can't wait, she whispered. So long as it keeps growing and putting him in danger. Trembor knew she didn't mean the baby. He looked at Marlot. There has to be another way. We can't let her go through with it. Why not? Arana asked. It's her body. He stood and looked her in the eyes. She's prey. If she kills it, it will destroy her. The buffalo snorted. Don't kid yourself. We can kill. You've done it? What do you think? And are you like you were before that moment? Arana's eyes went unfocused. Then she looked away. That's what I mean. What's going to happen to her here? No one's going to be able to handle it. They're going to kill her. We need to figure out who the father is, even if we don't have her. Trevor forgot what he was going to say. His thoughts stuck in a memory, a scent that told him he already had the answer. He turned to face the sheep. What if you didn't have to give us information about the baby's father? Would you be willing to wait to let that nature take its course? She looked at him, confused. What are you thinking about? Marlot asked. If we can get the result from the lab, we'll know what species the father is. But the lab won't give it to us. Not to us, but what if the patient is the one asking for them? And this concludes chapter 24 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the book as well as the others in the series, they are available on all major e-retailers. If you want to support me in a different way, that's on my Patreon. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.